Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let's begin with a question that lives in the quiet spaces of every human heart. It whispers when you're waiting for coffee, staring out a window, or lying awake at night. Why do I feel so separate? Why does this I feel like a tiny island in a vast, indifferent ocean? We aren't here to learn Buddhism as a religion. We're here to sit with a man, Siddhartha Gautama, who looked into this abyss and discovered something revolutionary. He didn't just find an answer. He became the answer. Here's what he found: your suffering is not a mistake. It's not a punishment. It's not a sign you're broken. Your suffering is a signal. It's the pain of a wave finally realizing it was never separate from the ocean. The Buddha didn't come to start a religion. Religions were already everywhere. But those religions were born from fear. They were negotiations with the unknown. Give this, get that. Behave this way, avoid punishment that way. Transactional. Business arrangements with the divine. The Buddha initiated something entirely different. He opened a door that didn't lead to a better version of this world, but to the end of the world you carry inside your own mind. Here's what makes him unique: every other teacher compromised. They brought truth down, made it palatable, sweetened the medicine. The Buddha refused. He didn't bring truth down to human perception. He insisted humans must be raised to the level of truth. This seems harsh. But this refusal is the deepest compassion. Because truth, watered down, loses its soul. It becomes something to admire, but not something that can transform you. The Buddha's first teaching was about suffering. For 25 centuries, this has been translated as, life is suffering. And for 25 centuries, people have run from it. They hear it and think, how pessimistic. But they mistake a diagnosis for a disease. Imagine a doctor says, the bad news is you have an infection. Do you storm out, offended? No. You understand the diagnosis is the first step toward healing. The bad news is actually good news because it names the problem. It makes it solvable. The first noble truth is that diagnosis. The Buddha isn't saying life is a miserable pit. He's pointing to something subtle, a pervasive dissatisfaction, dukkha. It's the disappointment when a new car loses its smell. It's the quiet fear that this beautiful moment is already slipping away. It's the gap between what we want and what is. This is the most compassionate news you could receive. Because once you see it, you stop trying to paper over it with more possessions, more achievements. You stop running. You turn and face it. In that turning, the path appears. The suffering isn't the problem. The avoidance of suffering is the problem. So what causes this dissatisfaction? The Buddha pointed to a simple mechanism: craving. In Pali, tanha. This isn't just wanting chocolate cake. It's the mind's habit of reaching for the future, grasping at experiences, pushing away the present because it's never enough. This craving is the engine of the ego. The ego isn't a thing you possess. It's a process, a constant motion of wanting. Think of a spinning top. It stays upright only because it's moving. The moment it stops, it falls. The ego is the same. Its existence depends on the movement of craving. I want this job. I want this love. I want this sadness gone. Each want keeps the top spinning. Here's the psychological insight: desire is not actually for the object. Desire is for the state of desiring itself. We think we want the new house. But watch your mind the week after you move in. The house is there, but the wanting has already moved on, to new furniture, renovations, the next vacation. The object was just an excuse. The real addiction is the forward momentum. The ego thrives on the not yet. It dies in the now. A modern example, you spend 20 minutes scrolling for the perfect movie. You finally pick one. For the first 10 minutes, you're not watching. You're still judging, still wanting it to be better. You aren't watching the movie. You're wanting the movie. And because you're wanting it, you cannot receive it. We do this with life itself. We're constantly scrolling, wanting the next moment to be perfect, and in doing so, we never actually live the one we're in. If these words resonate, please consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you're making a commitment to yourself. You're saying, my inner peace matters. My awakening is important. Hit subscribe, and let's continue this journey together. If craving causes suffering, then the end of suffering is the end of craving. This sounds terrifying. We hear end of craving and imagine a gray, passionless existence. A zombie. This is a misunderstanding. The Buddha isn't talking about the end of living, but the end of wanting things to be different from how they are. The end of the constant internal negotiation with reality. A master and student walked through a forest. The student complained constantly. These thorns are sharp. The sun is too hot. The master walked in silence. They reached a stream. Let's rest here, the master said. The student sighed with relief. Finally, a place without thorns. This is good. The master looked at him. The stream is not good. The thorns are not bad. They just are. You bring good and bad and throw them on everything like a heavy blanket. No wonder you're tired. The end of craving is the moment you stop throwing that blanket. You walk through thorns without complaint. You sit by the stream without clinging. You become a guest of your experiences, not a slave. The Buddha called this state nirvana. It's perhaps the most misunderstood word in spirituality. We imagine a far-off paradise. But the Buddha was a psychologist. For him, nirvana is not a place. It's a quality. It's the feeling of a flame going out when the fuel is removed. Think of a candle in a dark room. The flame is your ego, flickering, unsteady, consuming the fuel of your desires. Now blow out the candle. The flame disappears. But is the room empty? No. The room fills with something always there but obscured, the morning sun pouring through the window. This light is cool, steady, silent. It doesn't consume. It just illuminates. This is nirvana. Not the annihilation of your existence, but the annihilation of the flickering flame of your ego. What remains is your true nature, a consciousness cool, silent, and radiant. It was always there. Nirvana isn't achieved, it's uncovered. You don't go to nirvana. You remove the obstacles and discover you were in nirvana all along, like a fish searching the ocean for water. After his enlightenment, the Buddha gave his first sermon to 5 ascetics he had once practiced with. For 6 years, he had nearly killed himself with self-mortification, starving his body until his spine pressed against his stomach. And before that, he had lived a life of total luxury as a prince. He had experienced both extremes. His first teaching rejected both. He called it the middle way. A famous musician came to see the Buddha. He was a master of the veena, a stringed instrument. He was frustrated with meditation. "Lord," he said, "I try so hard, but my mind is restless. I am too tense." The Buddha asked him, "When the strings of your veena are too tight, what happens?" The musician replied, "The sound is harsh. The strings can break. When they are too loose, then there is no music at all. They are lifeless." The Buddha smiled. It is the same with the mind. Not too tight, not too loose. The path is the tuning that allows the music of your true nature to play through you. This is the middle way. Not a compromise. Not a lukewarm path. It's a dynamic balance, the precision of a tightrope walker, neither leaning too far left nor right. The left extreme is indulgence, chasing pleasure, believing happiness is just outside the next door. The right extreme is asceticism. Fighting your own humanity, believing pain is a path to purity. The middle way is walking through life with relaxed alertness. You eat, but you're not a slave to taste. You rest, but you're not lazy. You work, but you're not obsessed with outcome. You feel anger, but you're not possessed by it. You're in the world, but the world is not in you. How do we walk this path? How do we tune the strings? The Buddha's great gift was a technique, vipassana. It means to see things as they really are. It's not forcing the mind to be still, that's like damming a river. Vipassana is different. It's the art of observation. Imagine sitting on the bank of a slow river. You're not in the water. You're not pushing it. You're simply watching it flow. Leaves float past. Sometimes the water is clear. Sometimes, after a storm, it's muddy. A log goes by. A flower goes by. You see it all. You don't jump in to grab the flower. You don't run from the mud. You just sit. You watch. This is vipassana. The river is your mind. The leaves are your thoughts. The muddy patches are difficult emotions. The flowers are moments of joy. The practice is to sit on the bank of your consciousness and watch, without judgment, without getting involved. The moment you judge a thought, "This is bad, I shouldn't think this," you've jumped in the river. The moment you cling to a pleasant thought, "This is great, I must hold it," you've jumped in to grab the flower and are now carried downstream. The revolutionary insight: your thoughts are not you. They're objects passing through the vast space of your awareness. You are the space, not the object. You are the sky, not the weather. For your whole life, you've believed you are the weather, the sunny day, the thunderstorm. You've said, "I am angry," as if anger were your identity. But Vipassana offers a new possibility: you can watch the anger. And if you can watch it, you cannot be it. The practice starts with the body. Feel your breath entering and leaving. Feel the coolness, the warmth. Your mind will wander, that's its job. When you realize it's wandered, don't judge. Gently escort attention back to the breath. This is the gym for your awareness. Then watch your thoughts. Don't stop them. Let them come and go like clouds. Dark clouds, white clouds, all just clouds. They all pass. Then watch your emotions. This is where things get real. We're so identified with our emotions. When sadness comes, we become sadness itself. Our shoulders slump. We are a sad person. But with practice, you can watch sadness arise. Feel it as a sensation in your chest, tightness in your throat, heaviness behind your eyes. And because you're just watching, it doesn't consume you. It becomes just another weather pattern. It comes, it stays, and because you're not feeding it with identification, it passes. There's a story of a woman who came to the Buddha with her dead child, begging him to bring the child back. The Buddha asked her to bring a mustard seed from a house that had never known death. She went door to door. At every house, people were willing to give her a seed, but when she asked if they'd known death, they said yes. A parent, a child, a friend. She couldn't find a single house untouched by loss. Slowly, her personal grief softened. She was watching the grief of the whole world. She was no longer drowning in her own little puddle of sorrow, she was seeing the vast ocean of human suffering. When she returned to the Buddha, she was empty-handed but enlightened. She had learned to witness her pain within the context of all pain, and in doing so, it lost its power to define her. Let me tell you a story. A man lived in a tiny apartment so full of furniture, books, and clothes he could barely move. He lived in constant irritation, tripping over boxes, never finding his keys. A friend visited and said, "Why not get rid of some of this?" The man was horrified. "This is mine. My grandfather's chair. My books. My identity is in these things." One night, a small fire broke out in his building. The fire department had to break down his door and spray water everywhere. Most of his possessions were ruined. The man sat in his empty, wet apartment and wept. But then something strange happened. He stopped crying and just sat there. The room was empty. The walls were bare. And for the first time in years, he could breathe. The suffocation was gone. He looked at the empty space, and it was not a void of loss. It was a space of possibility. In that moment of total loss, he found a peace he had never known. He realized his possessions had not been his identity, they had been his prison. This is what the Buddha does. He teaches you to willingly let go. He asks you to look at all the mental furniture you're hoarding, your opinions, resentments, beliefs about yourself. Can you set just one thing down? Then another? Until there is space. Until there is emptiness. And in that emptiness, you'll find not nothing, but everything. You'll find a freedom so profound that all your former possessions seem like cheap trinkets. The Buddha pointed to another trap that keeps us bound, ideals. We are raised with them. Be a good person. Be successful. Be compassionate. Be enlightened. These sound noble, but psychologically, they are devastating. Why? Because an ideal creates a split. It creates a you right now and an idealized you in the future. And it demands that the first you become the second you. This creates an endless, exhausting war within. Imagine a sculptor who finds a beautiful piece of marble. He looks at it and has an ideal, this must become a perfect statue of a horse. So he takes his chisel and begins to attack the marble. He chips away at everything that doesn't look like his ideal. He hammers with aggression, trying to force the marble to conform. The marble resists. It cracks. The process is violent. Now imagine a different sculptor. He also finds beautiful marble. But he sits with it for weeks. He touches it. He feels its texture. He studies its veins and grain. He falls in love with the marble itself, with what it is. He begins to work, but his work is not an attack. It's a conversation. He's not trying to force it to be something else, he's gently removing the small pieces hiding the form already sleeping within the stone. No aggression. Only patient, loving attention. The first sculptor lives by an ideal. He's at war with reality. The second sculptor lives by awareness. He's in a dance with reality. The Buddha's path is the path of the second sculptor. He doesn't give you an ideal of what you should be. He simply asks you to look at what you are. And as you look with patient, non-judgmental awareness, the false things, fears, cravings, the ego, begin to fall away on their own. What's revealed is not a preconceived ideal, but your own unique, awakened self. The Buddha speaks of a state he calls no mind. This is not stupidity. It's not the absence of thought like a person in a coma. It's the transcendence of thought. It's the ability to use the mind when needed and rest in pure awareness when not. Think of your mind as a computer. Incredibly useful. You can write, calculate, connect. But imagine if you left it on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for your entire life. It would get hot. It would run slower. It would be cluttered with a million open tabs. Eventually, it would crash. This is what we do to our minds. We never turn them off. We're constantly thinking, planning, ruminating. The mind is on overdrive, and we're slaves to its chattering. No mind is the ability to hit shutdown. Not destroying the computer, just giving it a rest. Stepping out of the mental chatter into the vast, silent space between thoughts. You've experienced this. Have you ever been so captivated by a sunset that for a moment, there was no thought? You were just seeing. Or listened to music so deeply that the internal dialogue stopped. In those moments, you tasted no mind. You tasted freedom from the constant narration. The Buddha's path is making that taste your permanent home. Living not from the chatter, but from the silence. When you act from silence, your actions have grace and power they never had before. When you speak from silence, your words carry weight and truth. You become master of the mind, not its servant. The mind becomes a beautiful, useful tool, not a tyrannical master. Now we come to something that makes the Buddha's teaching unique. His absolute insistence on compassion. Enlightenment, in his view, is not a solo sport. It's not about escaping the world and floating into a private nirvana. The fully awakened being is not someone who turns their back on suffering. They're someone whose heart is so open that the suffering of all beings is felt as their own. This is a radical psychological shift. The ego is a mechanism of separation. It says, this is me, and that is you. My pain matters, your pain is your problem. Compassion is the breakdown of that mechanism. It's the realization that the boundary between me and you is an illusion. When you see someone in pain and feel it in your own heart, you're experiencing the truth of non-separation. A monk sat in meditation for 20 years in a cave. he achieved great stillness. One day, he saw a scorpion struggling in a puddle, about to drown. He reached down to rescue it. The scorpion stung him. He recoiled, and the scorpion fell back in. He reached again. It stung again. A third time. A traveler passing by shouted, "Foolish monk! Why keep saving that creature when it only stings you?" The monk said, "It is the nature of the scorpion to sting. It is my nature to save. Why should I abandon my nature just because it's in its nature to sting?" This is the heart of a Buddha. Compassion is not conditional. It doesn't depend on the other person being worthy, grateful, or good. It's simply the spontaneous expression of a consciousness that has realized its oneness with all. To be enlightened is not just to be free from suffering, it's to be free for compassion. To become a healing presence in the world, not by doing anything, but simply by being what you are, a source of unconditional love. A woman came to a Buddhist monastery. She was not a nun, just a layperson. She was terrified of dying. This fear colored everything, every joy, every relationship, every success. "This will end," a voice would whisper. She had read books, seen therapists, tried distractions. Nothing worked. She asked to speak to the abbot. She told him about her fear. The master listened in silence. Then he said, "I will give you a practice. For 1 month, sit for 30 minutes each evening. During that time, imagine you have already died. This life you're living, it's over. The people you love, they are in the past. Your body, gone. You are just consciousness, looking back at the life you lived. Watch it like a movie. See the joys, the sorrows, the triumphs, the mistakes. See it all from the perspective of the end." The woman was shocked. "That's horrible. That will only make my fear worse." The master smiled. "Try it for 1 month." Reluctantly, she did. The first few nights were terrifying. She wept. But as days passed, something shifted. Watching her life from its end, she began to see with new eyes. The petty grievances, anxieties about what people thought, desperate grasping for more, all seemed small, unimportant. What stood out were moments of simple connection, laughing with a friend, feeling sun on her skin, kindness from a stranger. Things she had taken for granted now seemed infinitely precious. After a month, she returned. "I did the practice. The strangest thing happened. My fear of dying is almost gone. In its place is profound gratitude for living. I feel like I've been given my life back." The master nodded. The fear of death is not fear of a future event. It's fear of not having lived. When you live fully, completely, in each moment, death has nothing to take. It's just the final note of a beautiful song. The song was not a failure because it ended. It was a success because it was sung. This is the freedom the Buddha offers. Not freedom from death, but freedom in life. A life lived in awareness is a life death cannot touch. How do we take these ancient teachings into our 21st century lives, with emails, traffic jams, social media, endless to-do lists? The answer is simple: we don't need a cave. The cave is within us. The monastery is our own awareness. The path is moment to moment. Right now, reading these words. Are you just reading, or are you also thinking about what comes later? Are you listening, or judging, comparing? The practice is bringing yourself back. Back to the breath. Back to the sensation of the chair beneath you. Back to the sound of my voice. When stuck in traffic, instead of frustration, feel your hands on the wheel. Feel your back against the seat. Notice frustration as sensation, tight jaw, shallow breath. Watch it. Don't become it. The traffic is the river. You are the witness on the bank. When arguing with your partner, instead of being swept by anger, pause for one breath. In that breath, witness your own anger. See it as a storm passing through. In that moment of witnessing, you create space. In that space, a wiser response becomes possible. You speak from awareness instead of reacting from conditioning. When scrolling social media and feeling envy at someone's perfect vacation, pause. Witness the envy. Don't judge. See it as a passing cloud. Then ask, what am I really craving? Is it the vacation? Or a moment of peace, of feeling enough? The object is just a symbol. The real longing is for a state of being you can only find within. The path is not about changing your life. It's about changing your relationship to your life. Bringing a new quality of awareness to everything. Washing dishes becomes meditation if you're fully there, feeling warm water, smooth plates, soap bubbles. Walking to the mailbox becomes meditation if you feel ground beneath feet, air on skin. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when lit by the lamp of awareness. As the Buddha lay on his deathbed at age 80, his beloved disciple Ananda wept. Who would guide them after the master was gone? The Buddha's final words were not a command, not a secret teaching, not a promise of heavenly reward. They were simple, profound, and beautiful. Be a light unto yourself. He didn't say, follow me. He didn't say, follow the scriptures. He said, be a light unto yourself. He was telling each of us that the source of all wisdom, all peace, all freedom, is not outside. It's not in a book, a person, or a temple. It's within you. You are born with it. It is your very nature. He was not a guru creating followers. He was a friend, pointing to the moon. Don't look at my finger. Look where I'm pointing. The moon is within you. The truth is your own. Find it. Trust it. Live it. For too long, humanity has looked outside, to kings, politicians, priests, partners. For identity, security, happiness. It has failed. You cannot get identity from another, only a costume. You cannot get security from the world, only a temporary loan. You cannot get happiness from an object, only a fading sensation. The Buddha's message is a call to maturity. A call to stop being a dependent child, begging the universe for favors, and become a sovereign being, radiating your own light. This is the end of the pilgrimage. The path is long, but you have never left home. The goal is high, but you have already arrived. The only thing left is to open your eyes. To wake up. To be the light you are. Not tomorrow. Not after 20 years of meditation. Now. Right now. In this very moment. The light is here. Can you see it? Thank you for walking this path with me today at Monk's Temple. Go in peace. Go in awareness. Go as a light unto yourself. A woman came to a Buddhist monastery. She was not a nun, just a layperson. She was terrified of dying. This fear colored everything, every joy, every relationship, every success. This will end, a voice would whisper. She had read books, seen therapists, tried distractions. Nothing worked. She asked to speak to the abbot. She told him about her fear. The master listened in silence. Then he said, I will give you a practice. For 1 month, sit for 30 minutes each evening. During that time, imagine you have already died. This life you're living, it's over. The people you love, they are in the past. Your body, gone. You are just consciousness, looking back at the life you lived. Watch it like a movie. See the joys, the sorrows, the triumphs, the mistakes. See it all from the perspective of the end. The woman was shocked. That's horrible. That will only make my fear worse. The master smiled. Try it for 1 month. Reluctantly, she did. The first few nights were terrifying. She wept. But as days passed, something shifted. Watching her life from its end, she began to see with new eyes. The petty grievances, anxieties about what people thought, desperate grasping for more, all seemed small, unimportant. What stood out were moments of simple connection, laughing with a friend, feeling sun on her skin, kindness from a stranger. Things she had taken for granted now seemed infinitely precious. After a month, she returned. I did the practice. The strangest thing happened. My fear of dying is almost gone. In its place is profound gratitude for living. I feel like I've been given my life back. The master nodded. The fear of death is not fear of a future event. It's fear of not having lived. When you live fully, completely, in each moment, death has nothing to take. It's just the final note of a beautiful song. The song was not a failure because it ended. It was a success because it was sung. This is the freedom the Buddha offers. Not freedom from death, but freedom in life. A life lived in awareness is a life death cannot touch. How do we take these ancient teachings into our 21st century lives, with emails, traffic jams, social media, endless to-do lists? The answer is simple: we don't need a cave. The cave is within us. The monastery is our own awareness. The path is moment to moment. Right now, reading these words. Are you just reading, or are you also thinking about what comes later? Are you listening, or judging, comparing? The practice is bringing yourself back. Back to the breath. Back to the sensation of the chair beneath you. Back to the sound of my voice. When stuck in traffic, instead of frustration, feel your hands on the wheel. Feel your back against the seat. Notice frustration as sensation, tight jaw, shallow breath. Watch it. Don't become it. The traffic is the river. You are the witness on the bank. When arguing with your partner, instead of being swept by anger, pause for one breath. In that breath, witness your own anger. See it as a storm passing through. In that moment of witnessing, you create space. In that space, a wiser response becomes possible. You speak from awareness instead of reacting from conditioning. When scrolling social media and feeling envy at someone's perfect vacation, pause. Witness the envy. Don't judge. See it as a passing cloud. Then ask, what am I really craving? Is it the vacation? Or a moment of peace, of feeling enough? The object is just a symbol. The real longing is for a state of being you can only find within. The path is not about changing your life. It's about changing your relationship to your life. Bringing a new quality of awareness to everything. Washing dishes becomes meditation if you're fully there, feeling warm water, smooth plates, soap bubbles. Walking to the mailbox becomes meditation if you feel ground beneath feet, air on skin. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when lit by the lamp of awareness. As the Buddha lay on his deathbed at age 80, his beloved disciple Ananda wept. Who would guide them after the master was gone? The Buddha's final words were not a command, not a secret teaching, not a promise of heavenly reward. They were simple, profound, and beautiful. Be a light unto yourself. He didn't say, follow me. He didn't say, follow the scriptures. He said, be a light unto yourself. He was telling each of us that the source of all wisdom, all peace, all freedom, is not outside. It's not in a book, a person, or a temple. It's within you. You are born with it. It is your very nature. He was not a guru creating followers. He was a friend, pointing to the moon. Don't look at my finger. Look where I'm pointing. The moon is within you. The truth is your own. Find it. Trust it. Live it. For too long, humanity has looked outside, to kings, politicians, priests, partners. For identity, security, happiness. It has failed. You cannot get identity from another, only a costume. You cannot get security from the world, only a temporary loan. You cannot get happiness from an object, only a fading sensation. The Buddha's message is a call to maturity. A call to stop being a dependent child, begging the universe for favors, and become a sovereign being, radiating your own light. This is the end of the pilgrimage. The path is long, but you have never left home. The goal is high, but you have already arrived. The only thing left is to open your eyes. To wake up. To be the light you are. Not tomorrow. Not after 20 years of meditation. Now. Right now. In this very moment. The light is here. Can you see it? Thank you for walking this path with me today at Monk's Temple. Go in peace. Go in awareness. Go as a light unto yourself. Let us now walk with Siddhartha Gautama through the final hours before his awakening. Not as history, but as a mirror for our own journey. He was born a prince. His father, the king, was told by astrologers that his son would either become a great ruler or renounce the world entirely. Determined to prevent the second option, the king built 3 palaces, one for each season. He surrounded his son with beauty, pleasure, and youth. No ugliness was permitted. No illness, no aging, no death. Only endless entertainment, endless beauty, endless youth. For 29 years, the prince lived in this gilded cage. He knew nothing of the world outside. He knew nothing of loss, of pain, of the fragile nature of this human existence. And yet, have you noticed how pleasure, when it never ends, begins to feel like a prison? Have you noticed how constant comfort creates its own kind of suffocation? The prince had everything, and because he had everything, he had nothing to want. And when wanting stops, the ego begins to starve. This was the astrologer's mistake. They thought pleasure would bind him to the world. They didn't understand that pleasure, when it becomes monotonous, becomes its own form of torture. The prince grew restless. He felt something was missing, though he couldn't name it. This restlessness is the first crack in the wall. This restlessness is the call of truth. One day, the prince demanded to see the city outside the palace walls. His father, confident in his arrangements, agreed. The streets were cleared. The sick were hidden. The elderly were kept indoors. Everything was perfect. But existence has a way of reaching us. An old man, deaf to the king's orders, wandered onto the road. The prince saw him, bent, wrinkled, trembling. He asked his charioteer, "What is this? What has happened to this man?" The charioteer, bound by truth, replied, "This is old age, my lord. It comes to all. It will come to you." The prince was shattered. The foundation of his world cracked. Next, he saw a sick man, covered in sores, burning with fever. Then he saw a funeral procession, a body wrapped and still, surrounded by mourners. Each sight drove the truth deeper: this body will fail. This life will end. Everything I love will be taken. Finally, he saw an ascetic, a wandering monk with shaved head and robe, carrying a bowl. Calm. Peaceful. Untouched by the chaos. The prince asked, "Who is this man?" The charioteer replied, "One who has seen that youth turns to age, that health turns to sickness, that life turns to death. He seeks what is eternal, what cannot be touched by decay." In that moment, the prince knew what he had to do. That night, he kissed his sleeping wife and newborn son. He left the palace, cut his hair, and walked into the forest. He was 29 years old. He had everything, and he left it all for a single question: is there something death cannot touch? For 6 years, Siddhartha threw himself into the path of extreme asceticism. He found the best teachers, mastered their techniques. He fasted until his spine pressed through his belly. He held his breath until his skull felt split with pain. He sat in charnel ground surrounded by rotting corpses. He did everything humanly possible to break through the illusion. Nothing happened. He became famous among the ascetics. They revered him. But enlightenment remained as distant as the stars. He was still seeking. Still wanting. Still becoming. The ego, he discovered, can survive on starvation. It can survive on pain. It can even survive on the identity of being a great ascetic. The ego is flexible. It will eat anything, pleasure or pain, luxury or poverty, as long as it gets to keep spinning. One day, near the Niranjana river, he collapsed. A village girl named Sujata offered him rice milk. As he ate, he realized something profound. For 6 years, he had tortured his body, believing the body was the problem. But the body was not the problem. The mind's craving was the problem. And he was still craving enlightenment, craving liberation, craving to become something other than what he was. He accepted the food. His companions, the 5 ascetics, saw him eating and abandoned him in disgust. He has given up, they said. He has returned to the life of comfort. But Siddhartha had not given up. He had given up giving up. He had stopped pushing the river. That evening, he sat under a fig tree, what would later be called the Bodhi tree. He made no effort. He had no goal. He had tried everything. He had lived the extreme of pleasure as a prince. He had lived the extreme of pain as an ascetic. There was nowhere left to go. Nothing left to try. No goal left to achieve. He simply sat. The moon rose. The night deepened. His mind, for the first time, began to settle on its own. No forcing. No striving. Just sitting, watching, allowing. The clouds of thought began to thin. The river of mind began to clear. As dawn approached, he looked up and saw the morning star, Venus, bright and steady in the pale sky. And as he watched, something happened. The star was there. His awareness was there. And between them, there was no separation. No watcher and no thing watched. Just seeing. Just being. He later said, with the disappearance of that star, I also disappeared. The star vanished, and I vanished with it. This is not poetry. This is the description of awakening. The ego, that sense of a separate self, an island in the ocean, dissolved. What remained was not nothing. What remained was everything. He had found what death cannot touch. He had found his own true nature. And then he laughed. Not a laugh of triumph, but a laugh of utter absurdity. For 6 years he had searched frantically for something that had never been lost. He had been looking for water while drowning in the ocean. He had been searching for treasure while sitting on a mountain of gold. This is the Buddha's gift to us. Not a doctrine to believe, but a discovery to verify. You are not who you think you are. The island is not an island. The wave was always the ocean. After his awakening, the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree for 7 weeks, simply resting in the profound peace of what he had discovered. He had no desire to speak, no urge to teach. What could he say? How could words capture what he had found? It was like trying to describe the taste of the ocean to someone who had only ever known a drop of salt water. According to the ancient accounts, a great being appeared before him, Brahma Sahampati, and pleaded with him to teach. There are those with little dust in their eyes, the being said. They will understand. They will be grateful. The Buddha looked out at the world with his new eyes. He saw the suffering, the grasping, the endless striving. He saw people building sandcastles knowing the tide would come. And he saw, scattered among them, a few who were ready to stop building. A few who were ready to look. He rose. He walked. He found his 5 former companions in the deer park at Sarnath. When they saw him coming, they agreed not to honor him. He had given up, after all, accepted food, abandoned the path. But as he drew near, something in his presence overwhelmed their resolve. They rose. They bowed. They offered him a seat. And he spoke. Not as a teacher to students. Not as a master to disciples. But as one friend sharing a discovery with other friends. He spoke of the middle way. He spoke of suffering and its cause. He spoke of the end of suffering and the path. And as he spoke, something extraordinary happened. Not just understanding, but transmission. His presence, his silence between the words, carried more than the words themselves. One by one, his companions woke up. There is a story from later in the Buddha's life that captures his entire teaching in a single image. He was traveling with his disciple Ananda on a hot summer day. The Buddha, now elderly, grew thirsty. He asked Ananda to go back to a small stream they had passed a few miles behind and fetch some water. Ananda returned to the stream, but by then, 2 carts had crossed through it. The water was churned up, muddy, cloudy, choked with debris. He thought, I cannot bring this water for the master to drink. He returned empty-handed. Master, he said, the stream is muddy. For miles ahead is a larger river. I will fetch water from there. The Buddha said, No, Ananda. Go back to that same stream. Ananda obeyed. When he reached the stream this time, something had changed. The carts were gone. The mud had settled. The debris had floated away. The water was clear again, cool and clean. He filled his bowl and returned. The Buddha looked at him and said, Ananda, do you understand? Ananda wept. He said, Yes, Master. I see now. When I first reached the stream, I jumped in. I tried to fix it. I stirred up more mud. I made it worse. The second time, I simply sat on the bank and waited. The water cleared on its own. This is the whole path. We spend our lives jumping into the stream of our minds, trying to fix it, control it, clean it up. We stir up more mud. More thoughts. More anxiety. The Buddha's invitation is simple, sit on the bank. Don't jump in. The mind will settle on its own. The mud will sink. The water will clear. Not because you did something, but because you finally stopped doing. Let us return now to that word, emptiness. Sunyata. It has frightened people for 25 centuries. We hear empty and think nothing. We think of a void, a blank, a cold and lonely absence. But this is a mistranslation of experience into language that can never quite capture it. When the Buddha speaks of emptiness, he is not speaking of nothing. He is speaking of no thing. The difference is everything. Look at the room around you. Is it empty? It appears empty. But it is filled with air, with light, with space. Without that emptiness, nothing could exist in the room. The walls would collapse inward. The space between you and this screen, is it empty? Or is it the very condition that allows you to see, to read, to connect? Emptiness is not the absence of something. Emptiness is the presence of possibility. It is the open space in which all things arise and into which all things dissolve. Your thoughts arise out of emptiness and dissolve back into it. Your emotions, your sensations, your very sense of self, all bubbles on the surface of this vast, open ocean of awareness. The mistake is to identify with the bubbles. The liberation is to recognize yourself as the ocean. When the Buddha speaks of emptiness, he is speaking of your true nature. You are not a thing. You are not a person. You are not a self. You are the space in which all persons, all selves, all things appear and disappear. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the screen, not the movie. You are the ocean, not the wave. And here is the most beautiful part: emptiness is not something you achieve. It is something you recognize. It has been here all along, hidden beneath the clutter of your thoughts, your beliefs, your identities. Remove the clutter, and emptiness remains. Not because you created it, but because you finally stopped obscuring it. This is why the Buddha's teaching is called a path of awakening, not a path of becoming. You are not becoming something new. You are waking up to what you have always been. The wave does not become the ocean. It realizes, in a moment of profound grace, that it always was the ocean, playing at being a wave for a little while. And in that realization, the game ends. The suffering ends. The seeking ends. What remains cannot be described. It can only be lived. It can only be you, empty and full, silent and radiant, here and now, always. We must now speak of compassion, for without it, the path becomes a desert. The Buddha placed compassion at the center of his teaching, not as an afterthought, but as the natural expression of awakening. Compassion is not pity. Pity looks down. Pity says, "You are suffering, and I am not." Pity creates separation. Compassion looks across. Compassion says, "You are suffering, and because we are not separate, I suffer with you." Compassion dissolves the illusion of boundaries. Think of a mother whose child is hurt. Does she feel pity? No. She feels the child's pain as her own. Her hand reaches out not because she should, but because she must. This is compassion, not a duty, but a spontaneous movement of the heart. The Buddha said compassion must be cultivated before enlightenment. Why? Because after enlightenment, the ego is gone. If compassion has not become habit, what reason would an awakened being have to teach or serve? They would simply rest in their own peace. But if compassion is practiced, it becomes the natural fragrance of awakening. A man once told the Buddha, "I will give my joy to the whole world, except my neighbor. He is despicable. He does not deserve my compassion." The Buddha replied, "Then give it only to your neighbor. Only when you can give it to your neighbor will you be free from separation." A man was shot with a poisoned arrow. His family rushed him to a doctor. But the man said, "Wait. I will not let you remove this arrow until I know who shot it. What was his name? What kind of bow did he use? What was the arrow made of?" He would die before his questions were answered. The Buddha told this story to a disciple asking endless metaphysical questions. He said, "I have not taught these things because they do not lead to peace. What I have taught is suffering and the end of suffering. Everything else is the poisoned arrow." How much of our lives do we spend chasing such arrows? Who is right? Who is wrong? What happens after death? The questions multiply. The poison spreads. The Buddha invites us to a simpler task: pull out the arrow now. The Buddha taught a specific practice for cultivating compassion. It is called metta, loving kindness. Sit quietly. Bring to mind someone you love easily. Feel the warmth of your natural love. Silently repeat, "May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease." Then bring to mind someone neutral, a cashier, a neighbor. Extend the same wish. Then, if you are brave, bring to mind someone difficult. Without condoning their actions, offer the wish, "May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with ease." This does not mean you stay in harmful situations. It means you stop carrying resentment. The resentment hurts you more than it ever hurt them. Finally, extend the wish to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. This is not sentimentality. This is reprogramming the heart. This dissolves the illusion of separation. Two monks walked toward a river. A young woman stood on the bank, afraid to cross alone. The rules were strict, no touching women. The elder monk picked her up, carried her across, and set her down. She thanked him and left. The younger monk was shocked. For hours, his mind churned. Finally, he burst out, "How could you? We are forbidden to touch women." The elder monk looked at him calmly. "I put that woman down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her?" The younger monk still held the memory, the judgment, the story. The elder monk acted from compassion and moved on. His mind was free. Compassion responds to what is needed, right here, right now. It does not consult the manual. It acts, and then it lets go. The river flows. The monk walks. Only the one who carries the past remains stuck on the bank. As the Buddha lay on his deathbed at age 80, his beloved disciple Ananda stood nearby, weeping. For 40 years, he had served the Master, and now the Master was leaving. The question burned in his heart: who would guide them? Who would show them the way? The Buddha opened his eyes and looked at Ananda with infinite compassion. His final words were not a command, not a secret teaching, not a promise of heavenly reward. They were simple, profound, and utterly liberating. Be a light unto yourself. He didn't say, "Follow me." He didn't say, "Follow the scriptures." He didn't say, "Follow the monks." He said, "Be a light unto yourself." With these words, he placed the ultimate responsibility exactly where it belongs, in your own hands, your own heart, your own awareness. The source of all wisdom, all peace, all freedom is not outside you. It never was. It is not in a book, not in a person, not in a temple. It is within you. You were born with it. It is your very nature. The teachers can point. The scriptures can describe. But only you can see. Only you can wake up. He was not a guru creating followers. He was a friend, pointing to the moon. "Don't look at my finger," he said. "Look where I'm pointing. The moon is within you. The truth is your own. Find it. Trust it. Live it. For too long, humanity has looked outside, to kings, politicians, priests, partners, parents, for identity, security, happiness. And it has failed. It has failed because you cannot get your identity from another person. You can only get a costume. You cannot get your security from the world. You can only get a temporary loan. You cannot get your happiness from an object. You can only get a brief, fading sensation. The Buddha's message is a call to maturity. A call to grow up, as a species. A call to stop being a dependent child, begging the universe for favors, and to become a sovereign being, radiating your own light. This is the end of the pilgrimage. The path is long, but you have never left home. The goal is high, but you have already arrived. The only thing left is to open your eyes. To wake up. To be the light that you are. Not tomorrow. Not after 20 more years of meditation. Not when the conditions are perfect. Now. Right now. In this very moment. The light is here. Can you see it? Thank you for walking this path with me today at Monk's Temple. Go in peace. Go in awareness. Go as a light unto yourself.